Um, and my eternal thanks to Monica, Claire, Antonie for putting together the book. We helped design the cover together. It's modeled after a old Blue Note record, Freddie Hubbard's Hub Tones. And it's filled with her photographs, me in the Hoboken train station trying to buy a ticket, and say, "What do you mean you won't give me senior fare?" It's a long poem, but not that long, and it's sort of just kind of my travels up and down through the transportation network. I am that rare. Someone once, I think, my teacher, the late Bill Matthews, once said the only adult men he knew who didn't have driver's license were poets. And I'm here to fulfill his prophecy. And it comes with a bit of an introduction that kind of in prose talks about my methodology and why I write the way I do, and sort of my history as a writer. So I'm going to read a little bit of that and then just read a section from the book. I was not a teen poet. I was not even a campus poet on the staff of the college literary journal, arguing around a cafeteria table about the relative merits of Robert Lowell with my fellow T-shirt intellectuals. I went to William Patterson College, a commuter school filled with working-class kids who mostly drove up to class and later drove off to work a job at the mall. Our sad excuse for a campus poet was Ellis. Was that a first or last name? Ellis was that rare kid on campus who came from a wealthy family and who seemed to have taken sartorial tips from Richard Brautigan book covers. Despite driving a brand new car up to campus, he was famous in his circle for smoking discarded cigarette butts and eating the leftovers on the unbussed plates in the cafeteria. Our future poet Montclair's antics seemed to have little to do with my life or with art making in general. One morning, while waiting to transfer to the number 14 Belmont in front of Patterson's ornate Carrera and Hastings City Hall, I ran into Timmy, a fellow classmate in Professor Baumgartner's Ancient Civilization class. Tim was an older student and wore his black hair in a civilized pompadour. Was he a Vietnam vet? Our campus was full of them in '73. He said he lived in the Y downtown, and unlike us overgrown ragamuffins, he always dressed neatly for school, usually in a pressed solid blue work shirt and a muted gold sweater vest. As the bus headed on the West Broadway Bridge over the Passaic and up the Preakness Mountains to our 9:30 class, apropos of nothing, he said, "You know, there was a poet who wrote about this city. His name was William Carlos Williams, and that book is called Patterson." A few weeks later, while killing time waiting to connect with the hourly Manhattan Transit number 53 to Nungesser's, I wandered into Meyer Brothers department store. This Main Street emporium was once a linchpin of an upper-middle-class shopping district that included stores like Jacob Brothers and Quackenbush. Now it was a lonely remainder of a faded elegance rapidly being replaced by vacant stores and 99-cent shops. Meyer Brothers had an old-fashioned look, and the clientele and staff were resolutely white, as opposed to the mostly black and shades of brown pedestrians sauntering outside the store. The restaurant on the second floor specialized in classic ladies who lunch meals, probably the only place in all of Passaic County where you could still order Welsh rarebit off the menu. But opposite the lunchroom was an alcove that housed the book department, and there I found a copy of Patterson. It must have been sitting there a bit, as it was one of those old New Direction saddle-stitch paperbacks, and the cost was very affordable even then, $1.95. I read the book as the number 53 rolled through the east side of Patterson, past the Markel Paper Factory, past Route 46, then along Bergen Turnpike to Tunnelly Avenue, before the jug-handle turn up Dan Kelly's Hill to home at Nungesser's. I loved the book's mix of poetry and prose, the direct use of source material, and the names of places and events that were familiar to me. Even though I wasn't as seriously engaged as sullen art for another 5 years, Patterson was my companion throughout my time at college. And the book goes from fall to winter. 2 years ago was this really hard winter of snowstorms and frozen streets, and sometimes I just started writing, keeping a journal, and at some point you realize you kind of hit on something, and you just try to keep it going, and then at some point you come to some sort of end point. So this is part of a couple of day journey to the next day. Midweek, mid-afternoon dermatologist appointment in Fort Lee. I packed for a mass transit journey the way some pack for a flight to New Zealand. One iPhone, one iPad with earbuds, 2 notebooks, 3 pens, fountain, rollerball, inkball, 1 Conductor of Chaos, anthology of advanced British poetry, 1 Tuna on Rye, 1 Coke Zero, 42 degrees, February 24th, long sleeve tee, heavy Pendleton shirt, Woolrich fleece. Charles Olson, on being asked why he was wearing a Gloucester's fisherman cape on a balmy day. When you go out, you'll never know when you'll be coming back. Light rail to Port Imperial Station on West New York's waterfront. The number 158 on time, a roomy, articulated bus. Consume tuna on rye. Read a Left Behind Daily News and their daily rant against the sins of the teachers' unions. Labor wars out there in Lafayette, Wisconsin, bringing back the 70s era canard, blue-collar aristocrats, in some new form. Let's see. I've been a card-carrying member of the ILGWU, the retail clerks, Local 1230, a Teamster, the AAUP, and the SSEU. I grew up hearing Rosenblum family stories, my mother's family, of my grandpa Jack, who died 7 years before I was born, who founded the International Pocketbook Workers Union in 1923, my Aunt Henny present when he called the strike at Manhattan Center. Cousin Bernard still has the family talisman, Grandpa Jack's diary of his last years as union president, mostly a sad, early Depression-era odyssey, written in a beautiful script with peacock blue ink about going from shop to shop, trying to save the jobs of his brother workers, brother being used as a term, non-ironically, throughout the diary. Done with Dr. Illowite, whose dermatology practice is opposite the Whiteman House, Bill Evans' residence in the last years of his difficult life. Did that sardonic, race-conscious pianist pick his crib for its irony value? And now a mile down Anderson Avenue, near Clark Terrace, where painter John Marin spent his salad years, the local history displaced by a heavy bag of La Moujane from Acidorian Bakery. It's the only thing they sell. And to complete tonight's Levantine supper, a visit to Macedonia Foods for olives and simit, which the owner calls a Turkish bagel, works for me. Love this unknown, unwritten about ethnic strip of Albanian social clubs, Greek Orthodox churches, and Croatian liquor stores, all under winter sunset. Next day. After breakfast with former Hoboken dwellers at Time Warp Cornelia Street Cafe, take IRT local downtown to City Hall Park for an emergency rally to support the public unions in Wisconsin from the machinations of yet another itty-bitty Reagan. And then Monica was able to put signs here on the page. If you could read this sign, thank a teacher. Tax the rich, always in all occasions. No union busting. Oh, this is the dinosaurs from the dinosaur park in the Secaucus Meadows. They're not real. We then joined the line of march on Broadway, north to Foley Square, to join up with another rally, this one fighting the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Manhattan seems full of prairie fires. Sandy and I get stopped by a New York One cable news reporter. Excuse me, I wanted to ask you about why you're at this rally. The jerk store inside me is ready to say, my wife told me to show up. Instead, I tap my inner Galway canal and address the reporter. I support reproductive rights. It's not just a woman's issue. It's a human issue. The reporter is happy for the good quote, and my wife gives me a gloved thumbs up. Even Andrea Dworkin would have liked your response. After the rally, a financial enema, uptown in Soho, at the offices of our combat strength tax person, Susan Lee, and then the final segment of a long day, out to Newark on the path to hear jazz master Randy Weston. After the show, run into old college friends Jim and Heidi, and Bill and Sharon, old comrades still fighting the good fight. I recount the afternoon's rally in Lower Manhattan. Heidi recounts her demo at the State House in Trenton, but it's getting too late for reverie. And according to the numbers on my cell phone screen and the peanut brittle air of Newark, they both seem to form a sufficient epigraph for the full vote of this day. Sandy and I get deposited at Brick City's Art Deco rail station, just at the cusp of after hours, this being that great and glowing ordinary world, naturally incomplete, the on-time train takes us out across our flatlands is just a little extra armature and assurance of the lack of stasis. Thank you.